Voiceover Social.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Good. Here we go then. Hello, my name is Rob B.
Hello, and I am Helen B, and we are the Voiceover Social. How are you, Rob?
Oh, yes, I am.
You are. You are.
I am.
It's going well then.
Yes.
Brilliant. Well, seeing as though you're being so communicative today, I'm going to do. There's a couple of updates. We have another new social, Rob.
Oh, that's good.
I know, it's exciting. So there is no date yet, but there is a new Facebook group that has gone live. And if anybody is in Cambridge area, Cambridge, UK, not Massachusetts. I cannot say that word very well, apparently. So Cambridge, UK, for all of you people that are based around there, there is a new Facebook group. We will put a link to the Facebook group in the show notes, and you are very welcome to join.
Hurrah! That's another trip down south for us then.
I know, it's good, isn't it?
Yes.
And the really, 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 really big news.
Bigger than a new group?
And bigger than your new group
Blimey.
is we have finally got a date for the great big Voiceover Social tickets to go on sale.
Oh, that is big news.
I know. Blimey, it's been hard work teasing this one out.
Sithy, pray tell, what is the date?
The date will be a week today.
A week today. That would be the 12th of November.
Tuesday the 12th of November,
Not everybody, believe it or not everybody listens to this podcast on its day of release.
I mean, that is outrageous.
It is shocking and disgusting, and I'm going to write to the papers instantly.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you do that. But in the meantime, I will be getting the website live for the Great Big Voiceover Social. There is a new website, greatbigvosocial.com. That will be going live very soon. And if you're signed up to the newsletter list, so the vosocial.com/newsletter, you will be the first to hear when the tickets actually go live. But yeah, I'm really excited. We have our first gold sponsor.
A gold sponsor?
I know, it's very exciting, which has basically given us the deposit for the food, which is rather nice.
Food is always nice when you're spending all day drinking.
So a big old thank you and shout out to Bidalgo and Armin for being our first shiny gold sponsor.
Yes, thank you very much, Bidalgo.
You are an absolute superstar, and we hope to welcome many more gold and other sponsors to our grouping.
Yeah,
soon.
If you are interested in becoming a sponsor for the Great Big Voiceover Social, then do get in touch. We've got packages for all sorts of sizes of businesses and things like that. So if that's something you think you might want to do, give your business or your podcast or your little side project a bit of a plug. We've got some very nice kind of budget level sponsorship packages, as well as the big Bidalgo sized ones.
We have, and so are we going to give any teasers as to what's happening on the day? Or?
I think leave that to the website.
Ooh, okay, fair enough.
Let's try and get some traffic to the website.
Yes, that would be nice. But yeah, I am so excited. I'm so excited.
Amazing. Yes, so am I. I am too. It's going to be a great day, and anybody who isn't there is going to miss out.
Massively miss out. Yeah, they will be jealous of us all.
Yes.
So back to the podcast, though, Mr. B. Who are we chatting to this month?
This month we are talking to Caimh McDonnell and Elaine Ofori. Caimh is an author, and his books have been turned into audiobooks. He's very much a part of that process with Elaine. Elaine is his wife and business partner. She kind of manages him. I think he's a bit of a handful.
She's effectively known as the Wonder Wife.
Wonder Wife is her affectionate name, also director of stuff. So yes, we had a really nice chat with the two of them, talking about their process, partly their writing process and how they kind of run their business together, but also very much centred on the audiobook side of things, about how they went about choosing the narrators that they use and the relationship they have with their narrators and stuff like that, really. It was a really, really good chat.
It was. There's, some really good bits of information for anybody looking to either start in audiobooks or those of you who already are. So hopefully everyone will get some nuggets of gold out of the chat.
And have some fun along the way.
Absolutely. Well, let's hope so, because he is a comedy writer after all.
He is a comedy writer. So I think you should shut up and let's have a listen to the interview. Question number 1. Introduce yourselves.
Hello, I am Caimh/CK McDonnell, depending on who you ask. I've been a full-time author now for, 5 years? First book came out in 2016 and went full-time by 2019. And we've now got nearly, depending on if you count books that have been written and not come out yet, I've now got 20 books.
Wow.
Well, 19 I've written by my own, by myself, and one that has a co-author.
Well, it's 21.
Well, okay. Well, I don't know. Anyway, this is hard.
That's a good start.
We're going to take...
You've written a library.
Yeah, basically. It does seem like quite a lot when you put it that way. But yes, I used to be a stand-up comedian, and now I write a mix of crime books, which are generally the Bunny McGarry books, the Dublin trilogy. They're all over the place. I've not exactly done it in a systematic way. I've got 3 different series technically sprouted out of one thing, and I have a trilogy with 8 books in it now. And then there's the Stranger Times books, which at least I've managed to keep in order. I'm currently literally started the 5th one of them as we're writing pretty much this week. So, yeah.
And I'm Elaine Ofori. I am Caimh's other half and business partner, known as head of stuff of McFori Ink, aka Wonder Wife. Head of stuff is my rather grand title to explain.
I mean, technically you're CEO, but you just don't want to use that.
That was far more me. Basically, I do a bit of everything, really. My background is marketing, PR, and editing. I was an editor for a couple of publishers, non-fiction publishers, but I was an editor for the best part of 11 years before I moved into marketing. So I've always joked that Caimh has just basically been playing a long game, looking at all my skill sets and going, all right, yeah, now I know what I'll do. If I become an author, then she can run the company because she's got everything that we need to do. He's a canny man, he is. So yeah, that's pretty much me. And we've been working together since, well, I would say 2016, but we've been working together since we've been together. So
I mean, it's always felt like hard work at your end, I imagine, yes.
And while we're on the subject of books coming out, this is a good opportunity to give your next... it's the Bunny book that's coming out next, isn't it?
Yes, The Fortunate Son is coming out very soon, probably technically in November, probably, but it might be a bit earlier. We might be moving it forward because it's hopefully going to be ready to go a bit earlier.
Wow.
But yes, that's the 8th book in the increasingly inaccurately titled Dublin trilogy. In fact, it mostly takes part in London, so I've managed to screw up one of the other words in that 3-word series title now. The is the only part that's now accurate. Yes, that's coming out. And then next year, there'll be a collection of the Stranger Times short stories, which you're very familiar with, Rob, because the ones we did in the Stranger Times podcast, which is how we know each other. And then that'll be coming out. And then the Stranger Times, the next book, will be coming out in October of next year, probably. Basically, because it would normally, in the run of things, be coming out in January. But I came up with an idea for a book that involves Christmas. And the first note my agent Ed went, no one's going to release a book that's Christmassy in January. So they had to, instead of coming out this January, they had to put it back to October. Because they literally said, would you consider writing something else and then coming back to this one? And I sort of spent a week trying to come up with a new idea and then went, no, I like that idea too much.
With the published book itself, do you release the hardback at the same time as the audio? Do they all come out at the same time, or is it staggered? Or
So recently, when we first started, that wasn't the case, but in the last couple of years, that certainly has been the case.
Right.
So we do the paperback, the ebook, and the audiobook. They all drop on the same day.
wow,
Yeah, this is on the
within
McFori
reason-
Ink books. We should probably explain, actually, the Bunny books and all are basically, we do them ourselves. I mean, you can technically call it self-publishing, but bear in mind, there's at least 2 of us, and we have quite a lot of people who work with us. We prefer independent. But yes, those are ourselves. Then the Stranger Times are done with Transworld, which is part of Penguin and stuff. So obviously a different thing. Sorry, but I just thought we probably should explain that because we'll probably confuse people otherwise. Sorry, go ahead, love, sorry.
I was saying, within reason, and I say that they all come out at the same time, we have our own shop. So any channel that we can control, we can drop things as and when we want it. Yeah. When you're working with Audible, you're kind of at their whim, really, because you can't control the publication date.
Right.
It's a case of you upload the files, and if there isn't a backlog and they get through it quickly, then brilliant. It'll drop when you want it to drop. But if they don't, and there's a massive queue, you can be waiting 2-3 weeks, maybe longer. So yeah.
That must be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, last time, it synchronized beautifully. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think at some point we might have finally got on a list where they've released quite a lot of these and they've sold pretty well and stuff. So they're probably not just cranking out some piece of crap. We could probably put it through quicker rather than having to test it like you would everything else. Because basically every Amazon system, because they're so obsessed with automating everything, invariably scammers then get in and try and, they've now got like AI writing books and all that stuff, and that apparently they were flooding the system at one point as well. And now, of course, with AI narration, I think they're going to let AI narration through on some levels, but that's undoubtedly going to lead to more scams.
They're actually trialing their own product, so they can't really say.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to anyone who wants to use it, but we won't be, I assure you of that. I'd imagine the audience of this podcast have strong feelings about that.
I'm sure
very
they do.
much so. Very much so, yeah.
It fundamentally, I do think that this idea that AI can do stuff fundamentally misunderstands what narrators are doing. It's not somebody saying the words out loud. Like, that's in the same way that actors aren't just, you can put something on the screen and it's just people can say the words off. It's not, there is performance, and we're blessed with two great narrators, plus the people we've had help out with the podcast, which has been hilarious and brilliant fun. But they're doing so much more than saying the words out and the delivery and stuff, especially with comedy. Like Morgan, who does our Dublin books, and he's on 13, 14 probably now, and he's amazing. But how we actually ended up getting Morgan was we actually went looking for a narrator, and the books were doing pretty well, but we thought, right, we need to start doing audiobooks, because they kind of always say, wait till your books are selling reasonably well, then do the audiobook if you're doing them yourself. And they were going well. And we got like a load of auditions through ACX and stuff like this. I think it was, and a few different places. And honestly, finding people who could do first off, do the Irish accent. I'll be honest, that's a big problem. It's very funny in ACX, particularly with Americans, where they list on their things, I can do Irish accents. It's like both women and men. You go, okay, there's a lot more than one. It's like, no. And then even then with Irish actors and stuff, we were trying, and we just couldn't find people who hit the rhythm of how a line, basically hits the rhythm to get the humor right. And Morgan C. Jones is a former stand-up comedian himself, so he has the rhythm, and he also has a brilliant thing where what was notable when he got a sample of him, basically he's one of the top voiceover guys in Ireland, literally. Every time I go home to the cinema, Morgan, I'm always joking with him that he's always trying to sell me something if I'm in Irish cinema. One of the adverts always seems to have his voice on it, as well as him actually physically appearing in an Irish tourism one recently as well, because he also does screen acting as well. But he's brilliant, but he also gets a wonderfully slow delivery compared to what a lot of people do, because he kind of has the confidence, really, and it really comes across, and he hits the lines beautifully. And it's only when you hear loads of other people do the same sample, and then you heard him, and we were going, we made the mistake of asking one of the best voiceover guys in Ireland to do a sample. And then we're like, we couldn't get anyone else because he was just so much better. So we actually I started trying to do it for a while, as Rob remembers. I think you helped me set up the studio and stuff like that. And I kind of did a bit of work with a great coach and stuff and got better at it. But then the books in the meantime were taken off, and all of a sudden we went, we can probably go back to Morgan and maybe have a chat with him. And it's worked out better than we could have hoped, because audio is, really almost our biggest thing in a lot of ways, because we've been blessed with such good narrators, and we have such a good relationship with Morgan now that when I hear the characters' voices in my head, I now hear Morgan doing them.
I love that.
Yeah, which is amazing. Yeah. So I don't know what the question was we started off with, but that's where we've ended up with. Sorry.
I mean, I feel like you've answered half of them that we had planned. So brilliant.
I'd also just like to bring out Caimh there just gave a really good top tip for all our audiobook narrator listeners, and that is really slow delivery. If you are working on a per finished hour rate, you're quids in with that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the reason look, it might be the reason Morgan's doing it, but I'm not. but it is, it's worth listening to him as well, because his delivery is so fantastic because of that. But yes, that's also the thing.
That and authentic accents as well. I think that's another one that people are. It's getting more common, which is lovely to see. And I think the more authenticity, if you say you can do an accent, please make sure you can actually do it.
Well, actually, amazingly, on the other side, Brendan, who does our Strange Times book, which are set in Manchester, The highest compliment we've had is he's Irish as well, which is just a random thing that kind of happened. Bear in mind, Mancunians, as we're all quite aware, wonderful people, also can be a little bit touchy. And the highest praise we've had is several Mancunian people have told me Brendan does a flawless Manchester accent, which is very impressive.
Nice.
When the locals are saying that your accent is that good, that is very impressive.
So how did you find the two of them? You talked briefly about going to ACX and finding lots of voices that didn't suit. So how did you find your two voices?
I was going to say, well, with Morgan, you approached him directly, didn't you, Caimh? And
we kind of knew through a friend who did voice stuff. And then Brendan was actually
via Transworld. So I think initially Transworld had thought, well, they've got a brilliant partnership with Morgan.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to read the books. And at the time, Morgan
was filming and stuff. So he couldn't basically commit to because he was doing ours at home, but they wanted him to come in the studio and he didn't have like a week that they could kind of do. So then, to be honest, weirdly, they then went, we'll just get another white middle-aged Irish guy. We were like, actually, that wasn't the reason we wanted Morgan. It was just
and we had said, well, actually, it's quite a diverse cast because you've got a lot of female characters. In fact, you could argue that the lead, Hannah, is she is the lead character, and she is female. So therefore, it would make more sense that we had a female narrator. So we did say to Transworld that actually we'd like to hear some female narrators and also somebody who's got the ability to do some diverse accents, because you've got Stella, who's West African. You've got Grace, who's West African, and Stella, who's a young black female. So to have somebody who could perhaps do those accents and do them authentically would be great. So they did send us a couple of voice samples who were brilliant and really nailed those specific characters. However, when it came to either doing an Irish male or some of the other characters, they weren't as strong.
The Irish one was a big one because you went, oh, geez, that was like nails down a chalkboard to me. And you're like going, a lot of our fan base would obviously also have the same reaction to it. So you're like, and Bancroft's such a big part of the books, you think, well, you have to get that right. Sorry, love, you were saying about Brendan.
Yeah, so then, we're like, actually, Brendan's audition was pretty good. And even though we said we'd like to hear other voices, he's pretty good. So we went back to Brendan.
Yeah, well, we basically, because we sort of went, we were looking at maybe women of color possibly as well, because they represent the characters and stuff. And then we did sort of go through all the auditions, but Brendan was just so good. We came back to it and went, and to be fair, Brendan's audition was good, but I think even we didn't expect how good Brendan would be on the final books, where there's so many different characters and his range to do them all has been incredible. I mean, Morgan's was as well, but we kind of, we thought, people might be, initially we were a bit worried, because people liked Morgan so much that, oh God, there might be people saying, but then we heard Brendan's and I think people love both of them equally, which has been fantastically lucky for us, where they've both been so strong, to the point where loads of people now read the books first and then listen to the audiobook, which is something, I think we certainly thought that initially. It's the biggest thing we've probably learned, I'd say, in the last year to 18 months. I don't know, but you reckon, love, but the fact that so many people we've noticed now actually will do both versions of the book.
Okay.
You say both versions. We have full collectors, the people who buy the hardback, then get the ebook, and then get the audiobook. Right. So they get the full set. And
God bless those people. So they buy them all in the wake of release, and you're like, you are literally gold star, and every author loves those kind of fans.
Yeah. You've said already that you're now hearing Morgan's voice in your head when you're writing the books. How has having the audiobooks changed the way that you write, if at all? Are you kind of writing along, kind of thinking, is that going to scan well when it's read out loud, or has it not changed anything that you're doing? Are you deliberately trying to create tongue twisters to make your narrators fall over?
I did genuinely actually put something in the last book, the last Stranger Times book, which was the chemical formula for, what was it?
Oh, yeah, methamphetamine, isn't it?
Yes, the full chemical formula for methamphetamine, which the full name out loud, which I thought was, I genuinely put it in, and that was, I'll be honest, I put that in thinking, because myself and Brendan, we didn't know him, but myself and Brendan are now good mates, and frankly, me and him go out in the beer quite regularly when I go back to Ireland for meetings. And I thought it was hilarious to put it in. And disappointingly, he didn't have any trouble with it as far as the collection. I was literally like, "How did you get to that?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, that was okay." It was like what? But but otherwise, I mean, we do I'd say generally when I'm writing, I think frankly because I come from a TV writing background as well as stand-up, so dialogue was always a strong part of my writing. Like before I'd ever written any prose, I'd written loads of TV scripts, so I always am aware of rhythm and dialogue and stuff like that, which is a big part of my writing, which is why it works so well in audio. So I am sort of aware on certain things, like the one of the things you always have between books and audio is that the he said, she said, and all that kind of stuff, which is really important in the written book. You probably realistically take, especially if you have a narrator who's brilliantly doing different voices, you don't need those identifiers a lot of the time. But the problem you have with that is, like, you could literally go through the book and take out a load of them for the audio version. But then the problem you have is technically that's changing the book, and Amazon being Amazon can decide that's a problem. But it does bother me. So generally, I try and I'm aware of that and try and just in a technical point, keep them down, because they can be very noticeable in some people's books. But that's because the narrator's been given this, told you have to put, and there's so many ways you can say he said and she said, like it's just going to be there. But hopefully people just sort of blank it out after a while. But yeah.
So I'm guessing you don't really rewrite the books specifically for audiobooks. So they're as close as they can be.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I'm sort of aware of it, but generally, like we always try and, if there's a word that somebody might miss, or like there might be a weird pronunciation of, we try and sort of remember to say something to the narrator about that.
Yeah, when I'm going through, when I do my edit, I'm looking at things like that where I think, I'll flag that up because it could be pronounced in several different ways, or that sentence might not scan as easily, so I might tweak it ever so slightly so that it'll roll off the tongue better. So I try and approach it when I do an edit.
But to be fair though, with our actual audiobook narrators, Morgan and Brendan, we've given them all kinds of challenges. I mean, I've given Morgan stutters to have to do and stuff for characters, which are, I genuinely hadn't really thought of that, if I'm honest, when I wrote it in, and then it got to the book, I was like, oh yeah. But, he managed all those things to the point where it's kind of, at this point, pretty difficult to sort of come up with something that can stump either of them. But I will say, when I'm doing the short stories, which are for the Stranger Times podcast, which we generally get read by comedian friends of mine from the circuit and stuff, with those, I am more aware that somebody's going to be reading them who might not, won't be one of those two guys. So when it comes to different voices and stuff, I have to be, there will be a couple in most of the stories, but I try and limit the numbers so they're not trying to do 5 and 6 voices, because I appreciate that for someone who doesn't know what they're doing with them. That's going to be a big challenge. I mean, some of them can do it brilliantly, but I think it's kind of one of those things where you sort of try and be a bit sympathetic to the person doing it for you.
So when you were going back to when you were choosing the narrators, how many samples can you remember how many you listened to? I mean, we're talking 5 or 10 or 50 or...
I recall for the Dublin trilogy, it was around 5, wasn't it?
Right.
Oh God, no, way more than that, love. It was about 15, 20. I think you just heard the best and worst ones. There was a lot in the middle. Genuinely, quite a lot of the samples I couldn't get all the way through.
Right.
It was, when you heard the Irish accent, you just go, I'll stop you there. I'm not listening to the other 4.5 minutes of that. Whereas with
Stranger Times.
There was maybe 3 or 4.
3.
Yeah. I think they said to some narrators to listen to, but not doing a specific sample of us. And then they cut it down to 3, which was Brendan and 2 others.
Yeah,
and then Brendan just nailed it so much we had to go with him.
And as well as sort of being able to read and convincing you that they're a good storyteller, what other kind of criteria are you looking at for a narrator?
I mean, mainly it's, being able to do the voices. I think it's one of these things where if someone can do the voices, great, as long as they really can do the voices. But on our stuff, I think really just the rhythm of the comedy stuff is very important, because we noticed even some people who were very good at the voices and stuff, they just didn't. It's one of these things you probably couldn't even explain it, beforehand. Like you need to hit this word or something like that. But Morgan and Brendan, frankly, both of them just naturally seem to understand where the funny is. I think comedy gets dismissed by people who don't know what they're talking about, frankly, a lot of the time, because people think it's easier than certain other things. But Put it this way: it's a friend of mine who wrote a book. There was a brilliant example of not understanding what was happening, where a line editor went through the book and corrected it, which was moving words around sort of thing. But it was like somebody who went way above the remit of what they should have been doing, frankly, because whatever about what might be correct grammar and although this is slightly more, comedy relies on certain things happening, words being in certain places. There is a rhythm to it. And somebody, frankly, rewrote a book written by one of the best comedians in the country and killed the comedy. So they then had to go back and take it all back out again and stuff. And similar in audio, you need somebody who can understand, frankly, naturally, the rhythm of these things. And as I said, obviously we wanted an Irish narrator for the Irish books. Brendan being Irish was just sort of a weird coincidence with the Manchester books. But I guess the fact that we all share a common Irish rhythm might genuinely help, that I write in my own voice, and maybe Brendan and Morgan naturally speak a bit like me, only a lot slower, as voiceover people don't need this explained to them. But anyone listening to this podcast is going, God, does he ever slow down? This is me slowed down. But yes, they're like me, slowed down and better, basically.
So what kind of tips would you have for audiobook narrators who are auditioning? What kind of things would you be listening out for in an audition, and how can they make sure that they kind of bag the job when the authors are listening, other than bribery?
No one's tried that yet.
Well, there you go then. That's top tip number one then. Try bribery.
You say that. Brendan did get me a lovely T-shirt last year. It was going to be a very nice present for last Christmas, wasn't it? It was Morgan. Nothing. I'm just trying to think. I think familiarize, if you can, obviously it's not always possible, but reading the book I think is really important, because then you get a feel for the characters and stuff like that. I mean, usually it'll be the first book in a series or a standalone book, I'd imagine you get, because people don't really like changing narrators midstream. And I mean, it does happen, but it's like, yeah, I'd say definitely. And if there are certain accents and stuff, because I mean, I think knowing every accent is impractical. Nobody's going to be good enough to know every accent, sort of thing. And the ones you don't know, if it's probably worth going to, like, for example, we had a chat with Brendan about the West African accent and stuff that Grace has, which is a very particular accent. And she's kind of a mix where she's sort of half Manchester, half West African, which is ridiculously difficult to try and get something to. But because I have a tendency to write characters that may or may not be based on my mother-in-law, Elaine did basically send him a couple of recordings of her talking in a Ghanaian accent to give him a better idea. And I think that was, and like, if you can discuss something with the author and stuff, because that was great, and that opened up a channel between us and Brendan.
That's what I was going to say as my top tip. Whether they're an indie author or whether you're going through a publisher, but if you can, just try and speak to them. Just ask them, is there anything they want to capture? I think, and don't be frightened of, like, particularly if you've got the gig, don't be frightened of contacting them and saying, okay, brilliant, I'm making a start on it. This is what I was thinking for this particular character. But if you've got any firm ideas, please let me know. Just don't be frightened of approaching them, because we really, for us, I think we really value the relationship that we have with our narrators, and just knowing in my head as I'm going through something and being able to think, well, I'll just make a quick note about that, so I can say, oh, when you're doing this accent, could you just think about it in this way? That it's a brilliant thing to be able to do that and have that opportunity to speak directly to the narrator. And I'm sure it works both ways, because the feedback has been, oh, thanks for that, that's really useful to hear. So I think that's a really worthwhile thing doing. Speak to your author. On
top of that as well, probably less so with our books, but having said that, Irish names and all that, ask any pronunciation of names and stuff, because people sort of hilariously, because Caimh is, by the way, people always think, oh, it's just because it's an Irish name. It's generally weird in Ireland as well. It's basically, Caimh is short for Caimh, which is original of Kevin. So oddly, like, I was pretty much, it was like a nickname I had in bands and stuff, and I was the only person who kind of used it. So myself and Morgan have to have a discussion about, he said Caimh at one point, which is the only name we've ever had to tell him how to, because it's literally the first thing you hear and you go, I'm going to have to tell him that's not quite how I do it.
Yeah. So what's your top tip for as another couple working together, living together, married together? How do you guys survive it? Because Rob and I could probably do with some tips.
I think you could give us some as well. What really helps is that, as you can see, we're in two
separate
complete
offices.
As always.
Oh, we're not even in the same building. I'm at the back of the garden. This is yeah.
Does that mean I get to put Rob in the shed?
No, you can have the shed. I've got too much equipment.
To be fair, my office is ridiculously big to the point where there's a slight echo when I'm recording in here because it just happened to be the size of the thing when we bought the house. But yeah, no, having separate things helps a lot. And then, Jen, when I'm writing, I don't like being, because I always amaze people go and write in cafes and stuff like that. I can't write with any kind of distraction around me. Literally, you can't see it obviously in the podcast, but behind me, I'm sitting, there's windows behind me. The reason that is because I have to face the wall when I'm writing, because I don't want to look out the window being distracted by stuff. In my old office, I used to watch the squirrel that was always trying to get next door's bird feeder, and it'd be gone for an hour if he came up. So I'm literally trapped in this thing, and then I generally tell Elaine about I'm writing, as in, don't ring me. Because we end up ringing each other like 30 or 40 times a day because we're both in different rooms.
Just at the start of this record, Caimh rang me to tell me that he was going to join us. So
yeah. We're so used to it now. We speak to each other far more on the phone than we do in person.
Isn't it weird? Oh, I'm so glad you said that though, because this is making me feel a lot more normal. So carry on.
I mean, to the point where we have we've installed electric dog doors in my office door and in the back office door because our anxious dog likes to come and check where people are. Oh. So we now set up a system where the dog can wander in and out and check everybody's okay.
I love it.
Because we have two dogs. The other one doesn't give a shit where I am though, so he just stays with Elaine. He could care less about me. The other dog. I called him over this morning on my way to the office, and he hilariously, genuinely ran over to me, stopped right in front of me, and took a massive shit. And I think that was his way of telling me exactly what he thought of it. It was, I'll be honest, as heckles go, and I've had a lot of my time, that is probably the single finest one I've ever had.
If that was ever done in person by a human, I mean that's a hardcore.
Oh yeah, no, I've had some bad gigs, but yeah, that's a lot less charming if it's a human being.
Yeah, that'd have to be a gig in a Wetherspoons if that was going to happen.
News from Equity.
Since Helen and I took over the VO Social, we have been promising you this feature, which is now happening. And now we are very, very happy to say that this feature is now happening. And this feature is News from Equity. And we have a friend of the VO Social. We have a friend from Equity. Oh, shit.
It's going well.
Oh, that is such a lovely intro. Thank you so much, Rob.
Yeah, great.
I hope you're going to leave that in.
You never know. You never know. Yes, we have our friendly Equity representative with us again for the reintroduction of this feature. So I would like to say, hello, friend from Equity. Who the hell are you?
Hello, I'm Annette Rizzo, and I am a voiceover, and also I'm on the Equity Audio Committee.
Excellent. And obviously everybody knew that because you used to host News from Equity when Nick and Leah were in charge.
I did.
Which has been a while. So what have you been up to?
Well, yeah, I'll have to say that professionally, it sounds obviously my work is quite dull. I don't mean that. I just mean that, work is work. So, I mean, I've been doing what we all do. So I've been in the booth that I'm sitting in now and just, working on everything that comes in, which I don't do much of the really exciting stuff. So I don't get to very often play lots of characters. I tend to do a lot of corporate and phone systems, so it's probably more interesting to say I spent my weekend cycling around London. I think I cycled about 50 miles around London.
Wow.
And I'm not actually in London very often because I don't live in London, but so probably too much information, so I'm a bit saddle sore.
Been there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
Nice.
Excellent. Cool.
So what have Equity been up to? What are the big changes in terms of equity and audio specific stuff that have happened over the last couple of years?
Lots and lots of things. I mean, obviously, I'll talk in a minute a bit about AI, but I mean, that's been a huge, and it's still an ongoing issue. Recently, because it's probably best, because it's not that things that were happening 2 years ago are, no longer relevant. They are, but the way things have happened, the responses to them have moved on. So more recently, Equity has launched for, obviously, it's going to be relevant to your listeners and to our audio members, the Equity Game On campaign. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of October, Equity had a rally at the Barbican. I think it was the 2nd of October. The reason they were there at the Barbican was because UK was holding its AGM. So UK, in case you don't know, is the UK Interactive Entertainment's what it stands for. And they are the trade association that represents loads of video games companies in the UK. And they include some of the really big names like EA and Microsoft and Nintendo UK. So they were having their AGM. So the idea was to turn up, not have like a protest. That's why I called it a rally. So people with T-shirts and banners and handing out flyers. But the point of it was to raise awareness about the fact that SAG-AFTRA, so our sister union in the US, the Games members are currently on strike.
Yeah.
So it was really a show of solidarity and to kind of make our presence felt with UK members. There is currently no collectively bargained agreement on rates and terms with the whole, games industry in the UK. And believe me, Equity is working on it. And that was part of the reason for being there, as well as supporting SAG-AFTRA. But for your listeners, if you are interested in or already working in games, then Game On, that's the hashtag. That's the campaign to follow. If you go to the Equity website, you'll find that they've published guidance for members who are working in the games sector. And this is a really important part. It looks at fees, usage, overtime, recommendations related to vocal stress. There's information on performance capture, rehearsals. There's a pile of FAQs. So it's really worth looking. And also the other thing to note, because there is a strike at the moment in the US, it's also really important that if you are offered games work, that they are transparent about the fact that, so previously there have been issues where when there's been a strike in the US, they've come looking for UK voices. So if you're offered work, it's quite important to know that the companies trying to hire you are not subject to strike action in the US, and that therefore they're trying to get workers in by the back door. And it's okay, don't worry about your US colleagues. UK voices will do it. They'll break the strike and they'll be cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not going to know those details unless you go to Equity. So go on, Game On. Cool. That's where you go for that. So there we go. That's the games.
Lovely.
Okay. Do you want to know what else we've been working on?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so audiobooks. We've got negotiations underway. It's kind of too soon to go into much detail about that because all sides are trying to be as open and as comprehensive about what's covered as possible. Obviously, it does mean talking about rates. Usually, even if you don't work in audiobooks, you may or may not know that tends to be, in terms of rates, calculated on per finished hour. So that's what we're particularly focusing on in terms of rates, but other things too. So again, it's about the terms and conditions that are relevant to audiobook work, research and prep time, recording schedules, what is and isn't included in standard fees, all sorts of things. So I can't really say an awful lot because it's really early days. There's not really a great deal to say. So that's another thing that's happening as we speak.
It's good to know it is happening, though. It
is happening. I think this is one of the problems because as a union, very often you can't say much about details when negotiations are happening because you can't, because that undermines the negotiations. So people think because it's quiet that nothing's happening, but it really is, I promise. Let's see, AI. So AI, obviously, AI is, again, really, really important area. The union has been very focused on this for the last couple of years, really. And can I just say, obviously I'm going to blow our own trumpet, but the audio committee really did lead on this. This is something that we were barking on about for quite a long time, but they have understood over the last few years, that actually it affects the whole of the union, everyone, Envision actors, everybody, musicians, dancers, everyone. So it's ongoing work, it's union-wide. I don't know if you saw, there was an interesting story as an actor called and model called Dan Dewhurst. And his story broke across the kind of mainstream news a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks back now. He did a job as a performance avatar. He had his performance recorded and he believed he understood how it was going to be used and approved of it, of the way he thought it was going to be used. So, presentations and those sorts of kind of inoffensive things. He ended up fronting, or his AI avatar fronting, a political propaganda campaign in Venezuela.
Wow.
You couldn't make this stuff up, really, could you?
Blimey.
So again, you can read all about it. The Guardian ran some video information and interviews on it, but you can read all about it on the Equity website. There is a legal discussion about what was and wasn't included in his contract and in correspondence between him and his agent and the company that hired him. And as far as I'm aware, that's all still happening. Right. But the important takeaway here is that over the last few years, Equity has produced an AI toolkit for us. And this is hugely important. If you don't know about it, or even if you do and you've never bothered to go and have a look, go and have a look. It's been created specifically for members. There is a contract template. Again, really, really important that you understand what is and isn't included. And if you have any concerns at all, ask the union, because they can looking at contracts is their day-to-day bread and butter work. That's one of the main things that a union does. Yeah. So use the contract template. If you have any doubts at all, go to the union and listen to their advice. Because I think sometimes we think, particularly because we do tend to work alone an awful lot of the time, that all of that kind of stuff that we have to take on our own, but we don't. That's the whole point of joining a union, is you're not on your own.
And let's face it, those of us that don't look at contracts all day are usually either terrified or just massively overwhelmed by them. I mean, the language itself is a massive barrier.
Or bored by them.
Or bored. I'm bored. I mean, I think, but all of those things. I mean, they can easily feel overwhelming and feel very difficult to actually understand the terminology and what it actually means in real terms. You
go kind of word blind, even for people who look at scripts all day, because, as you say, the language is so different. And I'm totally with you, Rob. It's so boring. It's kind of poke your own eyes out, boring. Yeah. But actually, it's worth it in the long run, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. I think,
survive the boredom.
Yes. And nice to be able to get support from other people who can do that bit for you. Hooray!
Yeah, who know what they're doing. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. And I think probably the last area as far as kind of news, I would say, is radio commercials. I'd love to say there's a big announcement. There isn't. There's no big announcement. Again, this one, honestly, radio commercials was one of the reasons why when I first stood for the committee, which was about 10 years ago now. I was like, I should go and do something and see if I can help. Well, sorry, guys. We're still struggling all these years. It's not for want of effort, I can assure you. There was an email that went out a few weeks ago, so sort of mid to late October, and it will have the heading, if it's in your inbox as a member, has the heading, Radio Commercials Help Shape Equity's Work. And it will have come from Shannon Sailing. So if you're an audio member and you remember seeing it but didn't fill it out, please can you go back and have a look at it? If you don't think you saw it, can you just hit the search button in your inbox and see if it's there and go back and look at it? And if you definitely didn't receive it, but you are an Equity member, please email Shannon Sailing, sailing@equity.org.uk, and ask her for a copy, and also ask her why you didn't receive it. Maybe you're not on the mailing list, or maybe not on the radio commercials mailing list. Yeah. So radio commercials help shape Equity's work. There are 4 questions on this email, and it would be hugely helpful if you could take a few minutes to answer. So we're in the middle, obviously, of still trying to talk about how best to negotiate with the big radio groups, and also just how to approach calculating rates, particularly now we're moving predominantly from analog. Analog still exists, but in radio commercials, digital is very much taking over. And it's really important that we get this right, because this is going to have a really, really long-term impact as everything moves ultimately to impressions. So the questions, the data that you offer will be collated and dealt with anonymously. Nobody except 1 or 2 of the relevant staff members will see it. It will be, so don't worry that the information is going to be shared with anybody else with your name on it. So it's literally just 4 questions, and it's about the radio commercials work that you do, the information that you're given before you are contracted for the work. And it is a little bit about what you've been paid as well. But you can answer all or just a couple of the questions, whatever you're comfortable with.
Cool.
That'd be really helpful if you did.
Yeah, and we will include that email address if people haven't got it and they need to get in touch. We'll include that in the show notes as well, just so that people have got a quick and easy clickable link. Oh, I like a clickable link.
Yes.
Cool.
Don't we all?
Yeah, and obviously the more the more responses you can get to that, the better, I guess.
Absolutely, because it does a couple of things. One, it gives the union proper working information. It's one thing to say, we think this is what this is, and there's a little bit of anecdotal response that someone said they've been paid that or they've been offered that. But actually having the data in front of them means that they're getting the real information from professional voiceover artists. And it also, the more data that we get from people, not only does it give us a clearer and more accurate picture, but when it comes to the negotiating table, the more information you have, the more data you have, the stronger your bargaining power. And it doesn't matter whether it's radio commercials or any other part of the industry. The more data you have from real working individuals, the stronger your bargaining position. It's that simple.
Yeah, it's essential to your work, basically, isn't it?
Really is.
It really needs
is.
to be that collaborative stuff with, yes, you've got to kind of give equity how it's impacting you for them to know.
Every single one of us has our own little part to play. That sounds a bit Pollyanna, doesn't it? But it's true. Everything that we do, because we're always very, I think, and I was like this before I joined the committee, as I think that we always think the union is something we join, but it's this big sort of body that's kind of, once we've paid our dues, then they go off and do the work. But actually, a union's just people. There's a limited number of people who are employed and paid as equity staff. The rest of us are just volunteers. You know, people who are representatives on committees and stuff, we're just volunteers. And we're just actors and voiceover artists. I mean, you know, that's it. Just that's all we are. You know, we don't have any special kind of powers or special, you know, education or information. We're just working VOs. So, you know, we're all, everything that every single one of us, however small or large, that we can offer, you know, the better it is for everybody else in our community with you know, the body representing us. We're part of that. Yeah. Oh dear, lecture over. Sorry.
I think this is part of why we wanted to get equity back on the podcast, is because it helps raise that awareness. And you know, and thank you again for agreeing to come on and do it for us. It's ace to have it back, and part of, feels like a return back to the family.
It does.
Anytime.
Thank you very much, and we'll speak to you again soon.
You've been listening to the VoiceOver Social podcast,
hosted by Rob B and Helen B from BEE.
Sponsored by BEE.
News from Equity provided by
Annette Rizzo.
Thank you to our guests,
Caimh McDonnell
and
Elaine Ofori
from
whiteheadirishman.com.
So the socials we have coming up are Pint and Rabbit online social on Friday the 15th of November, Hull social in Barton on Saturday the 16th of November, London social on Thursday the 28th of November, we've got the Hearts, Beds and Books social in Hemel Hempstead on the 4th of December, the first Helsinki social on Thursday the 12th of December, Manchester social on Saturday the 14th of December, and the Great Big Voiceover social on Saturday 25th of January.
All audio production by Rob B.
Please like, subscribe and leave a review to help more voiceover people find us.
And if you want to email us, it's listen@thevosocial.com.
See you next month.
The VoiceOver Social.